Welcome to the Method Podcast. I'm Aidan Simpson, and this is where we talk to designers at Google about work, life, and the future of design.
I'm the type of person that gets very easily excited by things. So I've been taking a constitutional law class recently just to understand the legalities of the Muslim ban. Recently was saying, what if I become a lawyer? That seems like an interesting career choice. And everyone says, absolutely don't do that.
That was Rachel Bean, Creative Director on the Material Design Systems team. Rachel and I talked about how she went from photojournalism to design, as well as her work on material, Google Play, emojis, and much, much more. So enough from me, let's get into this episode with Rachel Bean.
My name is Rachel Bean. I'm on the material design team, and I've been at Google, probably like 4.5 years now, but on material, I guess maybe around 2.
What is hard about the work that you're doing on material?
What is hard about that is a very good question. I'm currently a creative lead on the material design system team. And a lot of what I work on is external teams, how external teams can use material design to have a really strong brand identity and component system and be functional products. And that is really hard to create a system that potentially works for thousands of products to use, to define and spec a button that thousands of different product teams could functionally use. It's a challenge to make that work.
Are there any specific examples of apps or other third-party people who are really kind of embracing it and pushing it further?
Oh man, a lot are. We have the Material Design Awards that come out every year where we sort of award different third-party product teams and some internal teams as well. I know we gave Photos an award, for example.
Perfect.
For kind of using different aspects of our system. Because I think there's different parts of the system that make a good material design product, right? So some products are using beautiful instantiations of motion. Some have really strong brand identity. Some have done really beautiful work specifically with typography or color or implementing the fab. I don't remember everyone that we awarded, but Airbnb, for example, was a product that we awarded. And technically, they're not using 100% what's in our spec. They're not Roboto. They're not using 100% our color system. They have some of their own proprietary components. But I think a lot of the work that they did around embracing their brand identity within kind of material design ecosystem is something that we really greatly want to reward.
Is there a project that you're most proud of or has pushed you furthest since joining Google?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I asked that question because you've done a lot of things, everything from the actual like physical paper backgrounds, you worked on the Google Ventures rebranding, that you seem to have kind of covered a lot of different things whilst you've worked here.
Yeah, I started out as the first art director for Google Play. And that was the role that I was brought into, is to be sort of looking at brand, looking at imagery, and looking at sort of these editorial touch points within Google Play to make them a little bit more visually dynamic. It was really fun. During that time when I was the art director, I got to work with a lot of incredible artists to kind of bring a lot of visual identity to Play. It was hard, right? Because you're balancing the identity of the different content and products within Google Play with the product identity of Google Play. So it's sort of, it can be conflicting and kind of hard to decipher who wins out on that identity game a little bit. But it was incredibly rewarding to kind of see Google open up a little bit more to imagery, to illustration, to kind of a rejuvenated brand identity for Google Play. I was part of the team that worked on that sort of original redesign, sort of post-holo of Google Play, introducing sort of the card models and the shelves into Play. And that was really fun because we really opened up that structure and made that app a lot easier to use. So that was an exciting thing to work with earlier on.
It's nice to see how that's evolved as well into Play Music with the curation of lists and how they've really embraced that illustration style.
Yeah, no, it's good. And I think illustration's a really hard and politically contentious thing to work on. But I'm really proud of a lot of the touch points of work that we've done for Google. I think illustration is something that needs to change really quickly and really rapidly and continuously to kind of feel fresh and new. So some of the work that we did a few years ago, I think, was super appropriate and awesome for that time and set a really nice standard for the way that we should be thinking about illustration and product. I'm excited to see it evolve. But some of the work that I did with Google Calendar, sort of launching their monthly illustrations and their dynamic event illustrations, that was really fun to take part of because we really kind of there was no precedent really in that product at all for including imagery in that way.
Yeah, not
So,
in Google as well. I don't think there's
No.
not many art directors at Google.
No, there's a few. They're sprinkled throughout, but I felt pretty alone as an art director. But it was fine. It was fun. The product team seemed really adaptable and open to wanting art direction and wanting to figure out how to bring imagery more systematically into product. So that was really exciting. And also, of course, working on the original launch of Material Design was an incredible project to work with. Some of the most talented designers I could have ever imagined partnering with to come out with that spec. It was pretty exciting to work on that.
How has that team changed? If you think back to those early days to where it is now.
We have grown. We're a pretty big team now. I think we were pretty scrappy. You know, we were a combination of teams. I had come from Play. There was a lot of people from Android, some people from Chrome, Creative Lab, UXA, Search. A bunch of teams kind of coming together to kind of create this thing. And now we're a pretty formidable, large team. It's very structured, and it consists of engineers and product managers and project managers and designers and motion designers. So it's a fully kind of functional team.
Love and hate relationship for me is the app reviews before we push anything for photos. But I think it's very valuable because it means that all our internal apps stick to this spec that you guys have been developing. Yeah,
I think it's important. You know, I think it's always this interplay for designers in general of consistency versus creativity to some degree. And I think, I don't know, we from the system perspective feel like with the ability to create a really beautiful baseline, there's a lot of opportunity for creativity to play off of that.
Designers should love those constraints.
Yeah, right?
The formalization, you mentioned the team's got a lot bigger with a lot of diverse roles, but I think that formalization of processes kind of important to keep us in line.
But we don't want to be perceived as sort of the policemen or police ladies of the design system. We really, at least I think from my perspective, one of the most exciting things about the material design team is collaborating with all of these incredible product teams to ingest a lot of those learnings and patterns and visual designs into our system just to make our system stronger.
When did you first realize you could be a designer?
So I have a really atypical background. I studied art history in college. I was a photojournalist. I was going to be a photographer. Thought I wanted to be a war photographer. I was the photo editor for, my college newspaper, the Daily Bruin, go UCLA. But it was during an interesting time where the Iraq War had just started. So I was shooting a lot of protests, breaking in a lot of buildings to get those bird's eye views in downtown Los Angeles. And then did a little pickup for the LA Times and really thought maybe this is something that I want to do and be a freelance photojournalist. Then sort of wanted to explore more options within photography, and after school got a job working at AOL Latino as the photo editor for the music site. I speak Spanish fluently. I lived in Barcelona for a few years. So went there and did that and started working online digitally, being a photo director and working primarily in Spanish, which was awesome.
Why was that awesome?
It was because, it's my second language. I spoke it fluently, but not great. And it was just really incredible to be able to work in that language.
Keep it fresh.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a great job. Plus, I got to meet a lot of ridiculous reggaeton artists. Daddy Yankee and I had a few shoots together. It was really fun. So from there, I realized pretty quickly that I wasn't super happy with the way that a lot of this imagery and work was being displayed. And the easiest and best thing for me to start being involved in and work with is the modules and how to actually augment and design the modules that photography was being displayed in at the time, which were pretty bad. If you can remember back in the day, 10 years ago, old school photo galleries were pretty ugly. So I started kind of working with the design team more and just started designing the modules and working at AOL as kind of a split photo director and designer. And by the time I left AOL, I went to Billboard magazine to be their digital art director and then creative director online. So did a lot of design work and a lot of art direction work. They didn't have any sort of original photography presence online. So we built a photo and video studio and actually started bringing a lot of original photography to the publication. Yeah, and then from there came to Google. So I started out more traditionally in imagery and sort of a self-taught designer from working with engineers and working with designers from early on in my career.
Did you ever have a second career choice?
I want to be a neuroscientist. I always parents, why didn't you push me into STEM just because I was a girl? No, but I mean, it's fine. Maybe in another life. It's sort of something that is so antithetical to what I'm doing now and so bizarre, but I really kind of wish I had gone that route.
Even still?
I'm the type of person that gets very easily excited by things. So I've been taking a constitutional law class recently just to understand the legalities of the Muslim ban. And, recently was saying, what if I become a lawyer? That seems like an interesting career choice. And everyone says, absolutely don't do that.
I think it's the trait of any good designer to be curious.
Right? I think so too. I think it's the only thing that makes you sort of not timeless, but adaptable to kind of the work is being a curious person.
So this is a simple question. What is the role of an art director or a creative director as you now are?
I don't think there is one definitive role or description in terms of what an art director or a creative director is. How I describe sort of my creative direction process is I touch a lot of different things and I look at a lot of different things. I delegate a lot of different things, but I think it's more like being holistically able to kind of look at the full ecosystem of design. So specifically with the material design team, working with the visual designers to sort of execute on the best possible work from a VisD perspective, working with UX to understand sort of the usability and user experience problems/solutions that we want to bring into the visual design, working with engineers to actually implement the work and get it out the door, working with researchers to figure out where we need to implement research. It's a really kind of cross-functional discipline, I think. Really, more than anything, as a creative director, it's just a top-level understanding of the way that things are conceived, made, and then eventually built.
Do you have any good methods for keeping track of everything or just staying on top of the work you have to do?
Really good PGMs. Honestly, without the PGMs that I work with, shout out to Dexter, Guy, and Brendan, I don't think I would remember to do anything I'm supposed to be doing. They're wonderful. I mean, honestly, I think every design team, without having a really good set of PGMs, is maybe not going to be as successful as they could be.
Is there one particular thing that really you're focused on at the moment or really interested in at the moment?
One thing that I'm focused on is really figuring out a strong relationship between design and eng. But specifically on our team, how do we write design documentation around systematizing design and then being able to not just sort of hand that off and give that to a prototyper or an engineer to make, but really what's the relationship to have them work simultaneously together to kind of create something from a design documentation perspective can be read and understood and loved by an engineer, and from an engineering perspective is smart and sort of easily executable.
That sounds awesome. I think that's, as any IC designer, the main part of our day job is going and sitting with engineers and trying to bridge that communication gap. Right. And anyone who's, not making a conscious effort to go and actually talk to their engineering teams or go and talk to their designers is missing something.
I totally agree. And I think as designers, we need to start using language that is really applicable to engineering, right? We obviously have terminology that's super design centric. And a lot of the time that doesn't translate into how engineers actually build things. So understanding sort of their nomenclature and how they describe things is important for our process because it just creates familiarity and it creates more seamlessness in the handoff between creation and development of design to actually encoding things.
Yeah, and trust as well, I think.
Yeah, exactly. It's how to kind of ignite your engineers to be excited about building something.
I dream of a day where there's a sketch file with a publish button that you can press and it just pushes a component out there into the world.
I bet that's coming. We're getting closer.
That's made my day. What is something that's led to growth in your role?
I think we kind of said this before, but infinite curiosity. I think that the anxiousness of feeling like I don't know what's going on has just perpetually led me to read more, learn more, continue to pretend like I know what's going on. And I think that slight anxiety of, persistent imposter syndrome, as uncomfortable as that is sort of on a daily basis, has also led me to sort of expand my capabilities and has really made me feel empowered in many ways. Not coming from super traditional design background, it was the only way that I could survive in this world and actually teach myself the skill sets to be able to do my job. So I think like continuously learning, continuously growing, and not just very applicable trade skills, but things that are totally unrelated. So, I do read a lot of books about neuroscience and constitutional law, and I do think in incremental ways it does help me become a better creative director.
What is something about design that is clear to you, but maybe not to others?
Oh, God, everything? I mean, everything that I do is totally amorphous and weird. No, let's see. No.
I think it's true.
I mean, I think it is true, right? A little bit. So, for example, I'm the creative director for Emojis at Google, which is kind of a funny title as well.
Do you work on that emoji working group that meets to like define?
The Unicode Consortium?
Yeah.
Yes, I do meet with the Unicode Consortium occasionally. This is a whole other weird part of my role. That is a very small percentage of my job. But yes, I am the creative director of Emoji. So if you have any questions about emojis, you can come to me.
Any good emojis coming up that you're excited about?
Yeah. Well, we've got a redesign of the entire emoji system that I'm super excited about. I feel really good about the design system. It's based off of our historical emoji set, but improved. And I think it's really stellar. We did a lot of nice work on that. Per some new emojis that are coming out, yeah, there's a lot of really good ones. We've got the Colbert expression emoji. We've got some broccoli. We've got a vomiting emoji. More importantly, we've got a woman in a hijab. We have a woman breastfeeding. We have a transgender emoji. So a lot of these super awesome emojis that are coming out that are kind of funny and superfluous, but also ones that are really wonderfully representative of society.
What is something you're not very good at?
This is a hard question.
Yeah.
What are you bad at? I think I am a really impatient person, and I think this has proven itself sometimes hard to really be able to be a creative director sometimes. If you're impatient, you need to have the patience to understand multiple perspectives, look at those perspectives, and then figure out how to sort of really empathetically decide what is kind of the appropriate direction for the team, for the project, etc. So I think sometimes my impatience pushes me to make really abrupt decisions that, sometimes there's a benefit in making a decision, but I think giving a little bit more time to offer a little patience into a decision-making process, I think will just improve the ability to make the right decision.
Has being a manager of a small team helped you there?
Yeah, it really has. I think managing is a really wonderful way to build empathy and really consider diverse skill sets. I only manage 2 people directly, but I do kind of oversee a lot of different team members from kind of a working perspective. So those are 2 very different relationships. I think direct management is really about empathizing and helping someone's career and making them feel like they're progressing in a really legitimate and good way, and really hearing them and really working with them to really improve and better themselves and find projects that they enjoy. I think the less direct management of really overseeing a project is more about really extracting the best from people and less about more of that sort of empathetic, emotional relationship where you really want to help them grow.
Rachel, thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, no problem. This was fun.
Cheers.
Bye.
All right, just a final word from us at Google Design. Get more stories like this delivered to your inbox each quarter by signing up for the Google Design newsletter at design.google/subscribe. You can find more information about the things we talked about in the show notes at design.google/podcasts. And don't forget to subscribe to the show on Google Play, iTunes, or wherever you listen to podcasts. All right, that's it from us.